All right, so we're joined all the way from Houston, Texas, by Professor B. Nance, founder of Nance Accounting Academy. Thank you so much for joining us today. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central, Ridgeland High School, Rosa Scott, Germantown High School, the Academic Option Center, and our YouTube channel. We're in the finance career cluster, and we thank you so much for taking some time for us today as a finance professional yourself.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you. I love the energy. Thank you for having me.
Now, before we get into what all it is you do and some of the careers that are possible in finance, because they're not going anywhere, you're an HBCU grad. Went to North Carolina A&T in Greensboro, the largest HBCU in the country. So, just tell us a little about your HBCU experience and what degree you got and how that kind of led you to do what you're doing.
I love it. Yes, I'm a proud Aggie, so Aggie Pride. And I went to a high school that was pretty diverse, pretty split in the half, like black and white, not a lot of diversity outside of that. Um, And so I went to an HBCU because I wanted to have that Black experience. And it was so phenomenal because you get used to seeing the people who look like you and the same Blackness. But going to an HBCU was like so eye-opening because there's Black all over the world. Just like everything else, right? Like you get used to seeing what you see. And so I went into school. I loved math. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just Googled. Well, Google didn't exist back then, but I just looked and tried to see what kind of careers would be good for somebody who likes math. And that's how I came across accounting and ended up studying accounting in school and loved it.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you found out that jobs in finance, and I know you spent some time in banking, you've worked in corporate America, you've worked in the private sector. Really, it runs the gambit because finance careers touch every field. No matter where you do business, whether it's a hotel, whether it's a sports arena, whether it's a fast food restaurant, whether it's a school, we have a bookkeeper here in our building. There are finance jobs literally across the gambit in every field.
Yeah.
And on top of that, finance people are the last people laid off. And for the most part, if you're a person that wants to have a set schedule and be off at 5 o'clock every day and be off on the weekends and be off on the holidays, this could be a great area for you. So, you know, obviously we have some great accounting programs in Mississippi as well. Ole Miss has a world-renowned accounting program. We have a great program down at Jackson State. This is SWAC territory, so we got to take it easy on the MEAC people. We have Jackson State, Mississippi College, Belhaven, two smaller private schools that have accounting degrees. So obviously, accounting, the CPA is a great route to go. I know you are a licensed CPA there in Texas, but also there's also opportunities for this because we have kids that say, "Look, I think finance is cool. I like the schedule, but I don't know if I want to do the 4 year degree." So there are a lot of other entry level jobs that you can work your way up in. So what are some other areas in finance that you've seen that these kids could find a place in?
That's such a good question. So finance, like you said, it runs the gambit. Like there's the entry level kind of bookkeeping role where you're doing a lot of the day-to-day transactions where like money's coming into the bank account is going out and you're recording that. And then it can go up to like an accountant. You can get a 2 year degree, so you don't have to go the 4 year route. But if you want some education, you can get certificates in like a bookkeeping certificate. You can get an associate's degree. And then you can also do the 4 years and go all the way up to your master's or your PhD. So like it's just such a wide range. And to your point about the fact that accountants are always the last ones to be laid off, it's because regardless of where we are in the economy, if we have a lot of money, we need to count it. If we have a little bit of money, we need to count it and we need to
Right.
budget for it. And so an accounting degree, which is also one of the things that I liked about it, is it's always going to be relevant. It's always going to be something that's needed, regardless of what's happening in the world. And and then also when you think about like the types of jobs that require an accountant, to your like everybody needs people to count their money. Beyonce probably has an accountant. She has somebody out there counting her money. Baseball players, football players. So when you talk about like high net worth individuals have accountants, but then also all types of companies, like you said, your school, the government, colleges, um, the job that the nonprofit I work for, we do documentary films. So, it's a really fun organization. They need an accountant. That's how I got on. And then just so many different ways that you can take it and go in the accounting field.
Yeah, and we have we have the large Nissan plant right up the road here from us that is great for manufacturing, but they have a whole accounting department
Oh
that has
yeah.
several individuals. You got high end machinery. You're paying a lot of people. They have a finance department, and then also the cool thing about finance for these skills, we have another friend of this class in New Jersey. She's a CPA, but she also runs a small business where she does accounting for small businesses. So
Yes.
it is a great way to have a side hustle just on on a part-time basis. People can pay you a set amount and you can run their books for their small business. So it really is something that can always create several streams of income for you.
Absolutely. I think just when people find out that I'm an accountant, they like to call me and ask me. They like to, it's tax season. I get all the tax questions and I don't even do taxes, but there's like a built-in confidence that comes with knowing like this person's an accountant and especially a CPA. But so people will call on you, like you said, and like jobs will come out of the woodwork.
Big time. And then also a big thing, and I know you're familiar with this, there's more and more technological advances in finance and banking right now. And people are getting certificates in accounting technology and getting into finance jobs that are making really good money. And all they have is that certificate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a way to stay relevant in the current climate because, of course, automation and AI is like so big right now that part of the way that we're staying relevant is those certificates and that like leg up with the technology and things like that. And so even in accounting, there's a balance, right? You need some level of automation, but you're always going to need the human mind as well. And that's why it's important to learn whatever you need to learn in whatever way you need to learn it, because it's still always going to be needed.
Yeah, and that's a great segue because you said learn what you need to learn. Your passion and your baby that you have, your social media platform, the Nance Accounting Academy, is just so cool and so interesting, and it's something that you started it 8 years ago, but
Yeah.
you create content all the time, and even for people that don't want to get into finance, me and you, I know we agree on this. Not knowing this stuff coming out of high school can be detrimental to young people transitioning into college or career or whatever path they choose. But Wednesday when I was talking about you coming, or yeah, Wednesday, or no, what's today? Thursday, Tuesday. When I was talking about you coming, I said, having a Cash App card isn't having a bank account. You've got to I use Cash App because it has its use, but that's not having a bank account. Getting familiar with how banking works. And you have a great video, and it's a short one about how to calculate your paycheck, because you're just so passionate. And look, I did an interview with a magazine last year where I talked about in rural communities, especially rural Black communities in Mississippi, resources and education and access to things was left behind for decades. You will never hear me say otherwise on that. But times have changed, the world is changing, technology is changing. There's never been a better time for young people to learn this stuff. So even if you want to be a trucker or if you want to be a doctor, these are things that you need to know as you get into college. So just talk about where Nance Accounting Academy came from and some of the things you talk about and why it's so important.
Oh yeah. So ironically, Nance Accounting Academy started because I moved from North Carolina to Houston. I was teaching full time at the community college in North Carolina. Loved it. Probably to this day, it's the best job I've ever had. And I had to go from teaching in the classroom to teaching online. And so that was my way of being able to stay connected to my students and teach. But it kind of turned into this thing where I think other people saw it and wanted to learn the lessons because it goes back to like financial literacy and eventually trying to get to financial freedom. My personal story was checkered with so many wrong turns. And to like you said, coming out of high school, these are things that I wish I had known that I just did not know. I wrote a children's book because I feel like even younger than high school, like kids need to have it ingrained in them, the concepts of saving, the concepts of good credit, and all these different things that are so important to making sure that we're set up for success in the long run. When you're ready to buy a house, when you're ready to go and buy a car, or even if you just want to get a credit card, things like that, you need to have a good foundation, and all of that starts with knowledge. And so, I'm a teacher at heart. I do accounting. That's my full-time job, but I love the teaching aspect of it and really being able to break it down because so many people who look like me just have taken so many wrong turns, and it's basically just due to ignorance. My parents taught me what they could, what they knew to teach me, and they did a great job with setting me up to learn about savings. Like I know how to save, but they did not teach me anything about my credit. And so because of that, it plummeted. As soon as I went to college, I did some really crazy things, got a credit card. And I spent the next 20 years of my life trying to dig out of that hole. And so if I had kind of learned these lessons before, then I wouldn't have had to spend that time doing that.
Yeah, and something I say a lot because you're a positive influence on social media. And look, I'm a big sports fan. There's a lot of athletes I like to follow and see what they're doing. And now all these rappers fronting with all this money, making everybody think they're rich when all they've done is rent an Airbnb and get some prop money. That lifestyle is sold, but it's completely false. It's all a facade. So I'm like, find people that are positive to put things in your life that are good in social media, and that's something you do. And I've watched some of your content. It's very easy to understand, and it's not trying to trick you. You're trying to give people good information because I have kids all the time. I've got all 14, 15, 16-year-olds in here with me right now. And they say all the time, "Oh, this stuff is stupid. It's boring. I'm never going to need this." And then they graduate from high school and they come back and say, "I wish I would have listened." Because look, you can't even go to a dang basketball game. I go to some NBA games down in New Orleans and Memphis and things, and you can't even walk around the corner without them trying to give you something free. Sign up for this credit card, you can get it free. You go to Academy Sports, you can get 25% off today if you sign up for this credit card. You go to college, they're going to have them lined up trying to give you swag to sign up for a credit card, and they're counting on you not knowing.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Yes. That's exactly what happened to me. I was just trying to establish credit because I wanted to get my cell phone in my name, and they wouldn't let me because I didn't have any credit. And so when I was trying to establish credit, they gave me a credit card, and I just went, was swiping it. I was paying the minimum payment, which is like the worst thing that you can do. When it comes to credit, you have to, if you need to have the money to do the spending. It still comes down to having the money. I didn't treat it like that. It was like a free for all, basically. And that was just like such a horrible thing. And you said fake money, and I'm like sitting here like, yep, fake money. This is my prop money. You can see the word
Yeah.
copy there. Like it's so easy to to fool people and nowadays. And we know like with all the digital like advancements and things and AI, but it's so true. So many of the people that we follow, there's this concept called rich, where you go, you take money, you get a car, you get a nice house or whatever, but your foundation is still bad, which is why you'll see like some people who after they fall off, they're not riding around in that car anymore. They don't have that house anymore because their foundation wasn't set up the right way. They didn't have a savings. They weren't investing. They were just spending the cash as they get it. And that's like a huge mistake that you can make because most of that stuff, especially cars, they go down in value as soon as you get them. So it's not going to set you up for success in the future.
Yeah, I'm not even an expert, and I haven't bought a new car in 8 years. It really is, such a great way to save money on something that's really not worth the amount more you have to pay for it. Now, something else I like to talk about too, and again, I'm far from an expert, but just basic things that I think kids don't understand. There's a meme that goes around all the time that says we need to lower the retirement age to 35, and I'm like, retirement is not an age. Retirement is an amount of money.
Uh-huh.
And and you have a great thing on your channel about how to read your paycheck and things that go into a paycheck. And a trap that young people fall into is they want to have that high paycheck every couple of weeks, but they're not even investing the minimum to go into a retirement account. And if you work somewhere that has great benefits, and there's more and more companies that offer 401k matching, all
Mhm.
kinds of deferred compensation plans. If you're not putting in the minimum on a paycheck that employer will match and that it'll accrue interest over time, and then even just a little bit, 50, $75 a month in a deferred compensation, like I said, I don't have near the credentials you have, and I can even tell you that you are outside of your mind if you do not do that.
Absolutely. It's kind of like almost like free money in a sense because you're taking this $50, right? And if you just hold on to the $50 for 10 years, you have $50. But if you take that $50 and you invest it into an account where it grows over that same 10-year period, it's going to be, I don't know, a couple $1,000s at least. And that you think about that if you're putting $50 every week or every month, then it's just going to continue to snowball and grow and grow and grow. And so, yeah, everybody wants to retire. People want to not have to work, but you have to work to get to that point where you can retire. And part of that is some of the sacrifices that you make right now are going to set you up to be able to do that in the future.
Yeah, and I know me and you are about the same age, and I know my and even my grandparents would always, Social Security, Social Security. There was a time where you could really depend on Social Security to supplement a lot of that retirement income.
Yeah.
I would be willing to bet every dollar I got. By the time these kids get to that age, that Social Security is going to be minuscule. It may be a little bit here and there, but they've been talking about it since the 90s, and 30 years later, it's getting even worse.
Yes.
So you cannot have the mindset your grandparents had of saying, I can depend on Social Security for my retirement.
Absolutely. And both of my parents are retired now and they're drawing Social Security. But it's a population thing. When you look at the generations, the baby boomers they're feeding off that Social Security account. And so when it gets to the next generations, I'm a millennial, there's a lot of us. And like the pot just because it's one big pot. And so everybody's pulling from this pot. And so by the time that we get to the age of retirement, it's just not the pot's just not going to be as big anymore. And so that's something else to keep in mind is that we can't depend on the Social Security system for our retirement, like you're saying. But even pensions aren't what they used to be. Like both of my dad was a fireman, my mom was a teacher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so both of them had really great retirement plans just from their working for the government, basically. And everything is shifting. And so you can depend on the money that you save. And that's, I mean, if you get a little Social Security, that's great. It's just a little icing and ice cream on top. But you shouldn't depend on it.
Now, the last thing I want to talk about before I get to their questions is, like I mentioned briefly a second ago, and you have great templates on your website to kind of help kids with this. But one thing you hear a lot is, I'm not going to deal with the bank. I want to use these apps. And look, those apps definitely have a place. I use them. But if you ever plan on buying a home, if you ever plan on buying a business, if you ever plan on having any sort of generational wealth, you're going to
Mhm.
have to get at least familiar and build relationships with financial institutions, whether it be a credit union through your employer, a bank in your area. Um, so, why is it so important to have those banking relationships and financial institution relationships as they start getting out of high school?
Yeah, so Cash App cards are great, like you said, but they're not backed by the FDIC. So if something happens to your money, it's gone. If you have a bank account, it is covered up to $250,000. And so if something happens, to your money, then you have an added level of insurance that you would be able to get your money back. If your money disappears out of Cash App, it's gone. That's just it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is when we talk about getting to the point where you can save money, you want to have your money in an account, ideally, that is drawing a little bit of interest because then that's where, like I said, that $50 will grow eventually because you have it in this bank account and it's accruing interest on a regular basis. Cash App is not doing that. It's just sitting there. It's actually they're taking fees out of your money actually more times than not. And so you're paying them to hold your money, whereas with the bank you can get paid, it's not a lot, but you can get money for them holding your money.
Yeah, and then when you have those accounts, when you get used to seeing that paycheck, you don't even miss that money. It's
Hmm.
not like you're having to write them a check. They're literally taking it before it hits your bank. You don't even miss it, and that money is being saved and stored away for when you
Yeah.
do retire. It's there for you to have. Because I
Yes.
mean, and I'm never forget. I don't know why this sticks out. I was at Dollar General one day getting a water and some candy, and this guy's in front of me putting like $500 on a Cash App card. I'm like, dude, are you an idiot? Like. He's waiting in line at Family Dollar to put $500 on a Cash App card, and and I was just like, this guy just doesn't know. So it really is
Yeah.
um, something to think about. And they're not gonna when you go apply for a mortgage loan, they're not gonna want to see a Cash App statement. They want to see bank statements. They
No,
want to see that
exactly.
you've been using they want to see responsible use of finances, and it really is so important. Get the student checking accounts. We have two great banks in Mississippi that have that Cadence and Bank Plus that have great student and Trustmark. We have three. I just thought about them, but they have
Mhm.
great student checking accounts. They can tie it to their parents.
Yeah.
And then once they get 18, when they decide whether they're going to school, they can get some great student checking accounts there. So it really is so important to establish that now,
Mhm.
especially once the ones that are seniors and going to be graduating.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to set up a bank account. My son has one. He's about to turn 13, and it's just, it is, I think your parent does have to be like a member, like a name on the account, but I mean, it's like I don't touch it. I'm constantly on him about saving. And he's pretty good, but it is really easy to get a bank account set up. And just really quickly circling back to the credit conversation, the correct way to build credit is ideally you do have a parent that can add you to their credit card. And as they're making payments every month, so regardless of if you even have a credit card, if they add you to their credit card, as they're making payments each month, it is building your credit.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I plan to do for my kids, is just to add them to my credit card and build their credit that way.
That's awesome. Well, I do have some questions from the students, and I'm glad they're thinking about this because it is a conversation that's not had enough. And this first one, you actually have this on your website as a free template to download. But this is Janila Carter. She's one of our cheerleaders here, and she asked, "What are some tips that you would give me for managing a personal budget?"
Ooh, I love that question. Basically, you have to look at your finances, look at what you're spending. And so to create a budget, you need to know what you're spending. So if you have any monthly bills, but when I was in high school, I had to pay my cell phone bill, I had to pay my gas, I had to, if I wanted to buy food or clothes or anything like that. So you have to know what you have to spend money on, which should be about 50% of the money that you have. 30% of it should be wants. So, clothes can be a requirement, or, you pick what goes into each of those categories. And then 20% of what you get should go to savings. My advice on the savings is to do that part first, actually. Go ahead and get it out of your bank account if you can, because if you leave it there, you get attached to it. So go ahead and get it out of there. But you're looking at what your expenses are and then trying to see if they fit into those categories. And if not, trying to get them to that category, those categories.
Yeah, and again, to plug your website, you do have a template that they can download for
Yeah.
free and use that, which would, again, very easy to understand, especially for a high school student. You don't have a whole long stuff on there, so I think that's a great place to start, and we'll definitely plug that here in a minute. This is Ariel Snow, also one of our cheerleaders, and this is an interesting question. She said, out of all the jobs that people that love math, why did you choose finance over a STEM area?
Oh, I love that because I didn't like calculus. Honestly, that's kind of a big part of it is I liked algebra. I liked there's certain elements of math. I like the formula piece of it, but when it got into like calculus and some of that stuff, that wasn't where I wanted to go. And so when I was looking at the courses that you have to take in college related to, loving numbers and math, as an accounting major, a misconception a lot of times is that we are kind of like a math major. We're not. We took like calculus for non-math majors, and it was like the only math that I had to take in class in college. And so it depends on like what your level of math love is and which math classes you like the most. So if you like formulas, you like counting money, that's more of like the accounting side. Accounting is a very heavily on like the formula side, but we don't go into all that like sine, cosine, all that stuff that you get in calculus.
Yeah, and even now, and again, it's been 20 years since we've been in college, but they use the Excel so much now, it does most of the work for you. It's
Yes,
all about knowing the formula to plug in. So it's
exactly.
not a whole lot of over, because I had trig in high school and it was like Chinese. So
Yeah.
and I'm with you on that. Now this person didn't write their name on the question, but this is a great question. It said, "What made you so passionate about finance that you started creating social media content?"
Oh, um, So my mom was a teacher, and I feel like it snuck up on me. I didn't think that I wanted to be a teacher in any stretch of the imagine, not at all. But something happened, and I just kind of it like the light bulb just came on. And so teaching was something that I loved, but I also loved accounting. So I was really good at it in school. I've done really well in my career. And so the two of those together just kind of like it's like a perfect little marriage of like I like teaching, but I like teaching accounting specifically. And then social media, I consider myself a multi-passionate person. And so if you follow me on social media, you know that I act crazy sometimes. And that is even more like that's like the third element that allows me to like put it all together and like do skits and do like fun things. I'm also like dead set on like changing the narrative about accountants. I was
Yeah.
watching a show the other day and it was just like we're always like the nerdy like pocket protector, calculator, glasses. It's always the worst. We get the worst jokes and stuff in on TV and stuff. And I'm like, no, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna be cool. We're gonna be, no, yeah.
Oh, Dan, this is such a great question. She just handed me this. This is Shateria Hannon. She's one of our basketball players. And she asked, "You're obviously very happy about this. What is it about you that brings you such joy about this subject?"
Oh, I think it's so from the teaching perspective, I love the aha moments, the going from like I don't understand to really like having that light bulb come on. I think really from a lot of the teaching also is that I did a great job of ruining my credit at a very young age. Like I did a great job. And so being able to prevent other people from duplicating that effort that I made is just like such a huge passion of mine because it was painful. Like I never thought I was going to be able to buy a house. It was bad. I didn't think that I would ever be able to get a credit card or, all of these things that you use credit to do. Like that was not something that I saw myself being able to do. And so being where I am now, where we have bought a home, I do have it's not a new car, but being able to purchase a car, get credit cards, rack up points, do all the things that I never saw myself doing is just I'm just blessed and I'm happy to be here. And I feel like, each one teach one, all of that, giving back to the community, that's ingrained in me. And so that's just something that I have to do.
I got time for two more. This is Derek Dozier. He's one of our football players. And he asked, "What would be the best way to build my credit?"
Ooh, well, so if you have a parent that has a credit card, I don't think it has to be a parent, but if you have somebody who is now you got to make sure they're using their credit card the right way though. You don't want
Yeah.
you don't want them to mess up your credit. But if you have like somebody responsible in your life who is they have a credit card, they're paying off the full balance every month. Their credit is good, then you can get them to add you to their credit card, and that'll help you build your credit. The other thing is I don't encourage people to get credit cards because of what happened to me. but credit cards are the easiest way to build credit. The biggest thing that you have to know is if you spend $100 on your credit card, you need to have $100 in your bank account to pay that credit card off. Not the minimum balance, not you're not paying $10 a month. You're spending $100 and then you're paying it off.
All right, I got one more. This is Shanaria Lewis. She asked, "Where do you see your channel and accounting academy going in the next few years?"
You know what? I really would love to be able to do that full time, and travel and speak and I'm getting more into that, like doing stuff like this where I can come and I can speak to different groups of people. Um, I think that's where my passion is. That's what gives me energy, and that's something that I would just love to do. And I have dreams of being able to travel the world and talk to different people about finances and accounting in their different countries. But we'll see. I don't know.
But we'd
That's a
love to have you here. I know your husband's from Mississippi,
Yes,
so it'd be really great to have you. Now, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us. But a couple things before we go. First of all, ProfessorNance.com, that's where you have your templates that they can download, the budget guide. You also have
personal income
the
statement.
yeah, the personal income statement. I couldn't think of it. And then Professor_Nance is your handle on all social media platforms,
Yes,
TikTok, Instagram, everywhere. And a couple of them have already followed you, and they're already, I think they've already taken a peek at some of the content you have. But we encourage everybody to follow you there. But the last thing before we go, obviously, this is a field that needs diversity of all sorts. And look, I'll be the first person to tell you there was a long time where women were not able to get into the finance area, where anybody that was not white was not able to get into the finance area. So this is a field it's changed a lot in the last few decades, but it still needs more diversity. People don't
yes,
need to be scared to take a part in this. Just because somebody in your family does something doesn't mean that you can't do it. You can be the first at something. So why is it
absolutely.
so important for these kids to really consider getting into this field? Because like we said at the beginning, it's not going anywhere.
No, it's not. And you can make really good money. Six
Oh yeah,
figures is like
yeah, that
definitely,
too.
yeah, achievable in accounting. But I think it's because as people, our people want people who look like them to manage their money, right? Like there's just the long-standing history with, race in America. And so a lot of people reach out to me specifically because I am a Black accountant and they want to work with me. And so that's why we need more. Currently the only 2% of the CPAs in the world in this world are Black. And that's horrible. That's so bad. We can't do all the accounting for all these people. So we need some help. So definitely join.
Yeah, we actually have two recent alums. One is a current accounting major, one of them just graduated in accounting. So we have two females that have graduated recently from Velma Jackson that are taking part of that. And I got to get you connected. We've got a couple of black female CPAs that are friends of this class. So I'd love to connect you guys to create some community. That's
Yeah.
one of the goals for me is not only for our students, but to really give the people that speak a chance for a community. And I've connected people all over the world, and I really love to see those professional connections made. But we thank you so much for joining us, Professor Nance, all the way from Houston, Texas. Ramadan Mubarak to you and your family. Y'all have a great meal tonight as you start your fast tomorrow. So, thank you for so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so fun.
All right, talk to you soon, buddy.
All right. Thanks. Bye.